Absolutely. I can answer that part of it. Y'all can hear, right? Yeah, good. So when a complaint comes, a commendation, compliment comes in, it's important that we notify that officer, but also we put it in his or her personnel file, because that's important. And it's so important. I'm glad when I say that she's intelligent and that committee was good, they captured everything. You know, and you should be getting good news as well as bad news. So we're really excited about that, and the officers are, because they need to feel good about it. It's just not somebody just trashing the department out. It's an attempt to grow us and get us better, educate us, and coach us. So the good comes with the bad, and we appreciate that.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
And the second question, and it'll be my last question.
Okay.
But I saw the statistics on there. We have a huge Hispanic population. How many Spanish-speaking officers, and do you, for the officers that maybe aren't fluent in Spanish, do they do conversational Spanish?
Yes. We have the training for conversational Spanish, but a lot of our Spanish-speaking officers, and I want to say we're at like 28% of Hispanic, 28, 20, right in there, close to 30, okay? So we do, because you look at the population right now, it's in the 40th percentile, okay?
Right.
So we want to try to grow that number, and diversity is important, but when I go to different meetings, and I don't care whatever, we're good, they work it. So whatever community I'm in, and I tell people, because if you go to communities of color, they're going to say, Chief, why you don't have more African American or more Latino officers? And I tell them, diversity is important, but you know what's most important to me? This right here. I want good officers, okay? Because I'm going to tell you something. I'm not going to discount the great work that our Caucasian officers have done for us over the years, okay? And they worked communities of colors, 30 years, 35 years, retired, never shot anybody, you know, never had any complaints. So I want to celebrate all of it, but the diversity is important, and we try to do that. But first, as your chief, I'm worrying about good people. Give me some good hearts, and we can work with it, okay? Yeah.
One question over here.
Hi, we need good people, but we also need numbers. In other large U.S. cities, there's been a attrition in police force. In the last few years, I have a brother-in-law who's a veteran police officer in the capital of another state, and I'm just wondering where Houston stands. Are we below, and how do you recruit?
We're below, and let me give some not the credit to the mayor, because we're below. We would be even worse off if it wasn't him and the current council that we have. Let me give you a quick comparison. If you look at the city of Chicago, okay, we're pretty close in population right now. They cover 240 square miles. We cover 671 square miles. They got 13,000 police officers. How many of y'all think we have? That's what we need, about 7,000 to 8,000, okay? And that's what a study said. But right now, we're 5,200 police officers. 5,200. So, and this is something that's not going to correct itself overnight. This happened over years and years, and that's why it's so important. Whoever we put in office, they need to continue to fund those police academies. We are tricked to retirement, normally 200 to 250 a year, but we got an older force right now, and 500 of those individuals can walk out of here at any day. Last year we did almost 300. So you can only do 6 academies a year with a total of 75 in there. So, and once you start academy class, if you start with 75, everybody's not gonna make it. So every year, even with 75, you look at losing probably 8 to 10 of them, you know, to this is just not for me, or you couldn't make it. So, all right? Yes.
Yes, I have 2 police officers in my family, so it's personal to me.
I'm sorry.
All the time.
Yeah,
I think
go ahead.
a retired Chicago police detective and a rookie woman, Madison, Wisconsin. Difficult communities, a lot of the same issues we have here. It resonated with me what you said about how the community comes together in times of tragedies, whatever that be, Hurricane Harvey, police officers.
Right.
The key to me, and I don't have the answer, I wonder what you all think about how do we replicate that or work with that to try to develop the mutual trust and respect that the community should have for the police department and
Right.
likewise?
Look, if she don't mind, I'm gonna go first, but I want her to answer this as well, because it's important. I told you, she's independent, but that's still my partner, and I wanna hear her. But perceptions are important, okay? We first, as an agency or as a profession, we have to admit to the relationships, the negative relationships we've had with communities of color throughout the very history, the very start of policing. You have to acknowledge that, okay? So if you don't acknowledge that and you're talking to different communities, they're not gonna hear you. And I'm not saying everything is wrong about policing. No, it's not. We are a great profession and we got great people, but perceptions, okay? My perception is my reality. Your perception is your reality. And if we don't stop and slow down and give value to everybody's perception and their life experiences and their history with the police, where are we gonna get? And you respect that even if you disagree with it. Respect that, sit down at a table and talk about it. And then you get to the place where you can build bridges. So that is the very first thing you have to do. Something else, police chiefs, you have to put things in perspective and be honest. If your officers are wrong, they're wrong. Hold them accountable. If they're right, they're right. And it's real simple. And the same thing with the community. Just as I tell the officers, don't you paint that brush of a specific community. Don't do that, especially if it's negative. The same with the community. Don't think just because you see one officer involved shooting or you see an incident in Chicago or New York, you paint that brush on all of us, okay? So we gotta be real careful with that. Get correct information out and talk to people. Address it and listen to their concerns. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
It's fine. No, I completely agree with what Chief Finner said, but also it's part changing the culture, right? Coming in, I am coming out to these events and I'm building that relationship so that next time before something happens, maybe you feel comfortable enough because you're like, you know what, I saw Chief Finner, or I saw Crystal, or I saw somebody, and I saw, this is kind of something I'm seeing in my community. Let's see if we can fix that first, right? Because let's be proactive instead of reactive. And that's what the culture that Chief Finner is doing at the police department. He talked about talking about racism in past and different groups. That's what he's showing the officers. There's classes that are being seen. The cadets are going to the community now. They're meeting with different groups and they're seeing hey, this is what we see in our group. This is how we would like to be talked to. Don't just assume that every person is the same. And they're seeing this works in this community and this works in this community. And you have to kind of build those relationships with the individuals so that we can kind of go forward. And it's all about relationship building. As soon as we all have a relationship and we can believe in one another, then we can change it.